Well, we are currently fighting an invisible enemy. The coronavirus today also marks a historic moment when our country defeated horrible crimes committed by a much different enemy, the liberation of Dachau concentration camp in Nazi Germany.
Last month, Honored Legacies for Veterans invited Way 31's Pat Simon to capture a common bond between two North Alabama men. One is a survivor of that death camp, the other his liberator.
Bob.
To be clear,
Bob. I'm James.
Pleased to meet you, James.
when we first met Bob Sawada and Jim Fiesel,
What division were you with?
social distancing
Jim, how are you?
wasn't at all a part of our daily lives.
So nice to meet you, Jim.
Well, nice to meet all of you.
And that turned out to be kind of a blessing for this long-anticipated reunion in early March.
I think you were sent by God.
Because the reason these two men were brought here together needed to be experienced way less than 6 feet apart.
This is the people that we worshipped.
A single moment that happened 75 years ago
I was frightened, and I'll never forget that.
defined the rest of their lives.
That's when it changed, and the world changed.
Sawada was born in Poland a handful of years before the start of World War II. He saw tragedy early on as a child, witnessing the traumatic death of his parents at the hands of German soldiers.
Just imagine you, all of a sudden, you have no mother, no father. And the only one I had, of course, was my sister. They didn't bother.
He was forced to work in a number of Nazi German labor camps. Eventually, he was sent here to Dachau, the longest-running concentration camp where over 200,000 political prisoners, mostly Jews, were subjected to horrific conditions, starvation, beatings, and almost 32,000 people were killed.
We wandered into a messed up world,
On April 29, 1945, Fiesel, with the 12th Armored Division, had Dachau in his sights. His commander gave the order.
He said, Jim, put this tank through that gate. So I put the tank through the gate.
We seen them coming in. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. It was just, I don't know.
Fiesel and the Americans set free thousands of malnourished and mistreated captives, including the man sitting right next to him.
The barracks I was in was not too far away, maybe, I don't know, maybe about a couple of 100 yards.
Yep, that close, leaving them to wonder if they ever met that day 75 years ago.
I thought the possibility he could have been that man that tried to walk to my tank and didn't have enough energy to get there.
Nowadays, while we're all currently fighting the invisible enemy, sometimes losing track of our own days, you won't soon forget.
Thank God, I'm here talking to my liberator.
Why these two men have even more reason to celebrate.
I am proud of that fact,
In defeating a much different, vicious enemy, hate. In Huntsville, Pat Simon, Way 31 News.
And Pat tells us there is one more part to this story. After the war, he was eventually adopted by an Army major and eventually became an American citizen. He immediately enlisted into the Army and served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, along with tours in North Korea and Germany.
Just incredible. I mean, they don't call him the greatest generation for nothing, do they?
Absolutely.
Right.